And welcome to What's Up With This Weather. It is the May 13th edition here. And welcome, meteorologist Aaron Brackett.
And Jacqueline Ferris.
And hello. Nice weather, kind of warm out there yesterday. Yeah. I've got a little redness, tan action going on. Funny story to start out. Not really funny, but on Monday, I ran my generator. You're supposed to do it every couple months at least.
Okay.
And it's one of those portable generators, pretty big. And everything was fine, put it away. And Tuesday morning, so yesterday morning, my wife goes to work a little earlier than I do. And she texts me, she's like, the garage smells like gasoline. I was afraid it was going to blow up. And I said, okay. So I go out and it leaked like a gallon of gas on the floor. And I'm like,
oh, that's terrible.
So I'm like, when you don't use something for a while, you kind of forget how old it is. I looked at the date. It was 8 years old. I'm like, I've had this thing 8 years. I probably only used it like once aside from testing it. So I spent a lot of yesterday in the sun replacing a carburetor on that. So that's why I have a little redness going on.
But I think it's really smart that you tested it because how terrible if that would have been happening when you actually needed it.
That's exactly the thing. Thanks to Amazon, they got a carburetor to me, like same day delivery, and put it back together. But yeah, if we were running that thing and you needed it, it would either shut down or there'd be a gas leak, which is not good. So I got a little tan out of it, and I got to use my mechanic abilities and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it's funny too because I bought it. I used to get power outages all the time. I bought it. I've had like one serious outage in the 8 years. So
see, it worked. The generator is working.
It did work. I paid for it to not have the house lose power, and it's what's going on. So we are talking about the severe weather that we had over the weekend here. Of course, lots of hail, severe weather potential coming up. It's technically about 5 days of severe weather risk, but I'm really most worried about 2 of them. And I'll just tell you right now, it's Sunday and Monday. So kind of the tail end of this threat will be again, things will change and evolve, but for now, it looks like those days will be the highest risk days so far. And we're talking about the weather that we have today. It's pretty nice outside. So we'll take a look at some of the current stuff here, and then we'll talk about the weekend very large hail that we had all across the state. So today, much like, Monday and yesterday, we barely had any clouds. And if you're watching this a little bit later here, this was the morning Monday or Wednesday time lapse rather. Just a few clouds out there, not much going on. Here's a little bit more recent one into the afternoon, and still about the same, mostly clear skies. Maybe a wispy cloud or two that I can see from 50 Penn Live. It's a lot of sunshine. I feel like I'm in my Tucson days when I worked there for 2 years.
It's pretty sunny, but I'm not complaining.
In Tucson, we'd go like, wow, look at that cloud. We would just be like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So there we go. Just reliving those days. Morning low temperature 58 in OKC, 61 Enid. I'm a little suspicious about the Alva 72. I don't think that was the low because they've been having some intermittent issues with the site out there at the airport. Temperature change, though. We're a little bit warmer in central and southern Oklahoma than we were the last 24 hours. That warm-up continues for tomorrow, too. It will go even warmer for our Thursday and our Friday. Currently, if you're watching us live, it's 82 degrees outside, an east wind, and that will prevent most of the state from getting into some really hot temperatures unless you live in southwestern Oklahoma. We're expecting mid to upper 90s for today and the next couple days. So close to 90 degrees in Altus and Martha and Blair and Duke, Hollis, places in southwestern Oklahoma. And generally low 80s for everybody else. And there's the wind pretty well under control. And some of those gusts are just a little bit higher out there. Now, the fire danger today is pretty much taken under control because of this dew point, which is something we talked about on our 6:30 show last week. If you tune in for that, the difference between dew point and humidity. Dew point stays the same no matter what the temperature does up or down. Humidity fluctuates with the temperature. It's basically the percentage of air that's saturated. Dew point is a steady number. Dew point is if you cooled the air to, let's say, 61, then you'd get dew or fog or rain. So this map just basically shows us that, yes, we do have not a ton of moisture out there, but a decent amount that's going to help mitigate fire concerns for the day today. Now, as we go into tomorrow, there's going to be a lot more wind, and there will also be more fire danger, especially in western Oklahoma. I'm trying to find my fire danger graphic. I don't think I see it, but we'll add that in a little bit later. It's going to be really, really dry in western parts of the state. We'll have humidities down to, at times, single digits, so with winds of 35 to 40 miles per hour. So that is going to be something we're going to watch really carefully as we go into tomorrow. So here's the dew. We'll just show you future dew point. We'll do that for now. So here we go into our Thursday afternoon. You can see that, yes, the dew point is there, mid 40s, but the temperatures will be so high that the actual amount of humidity is going to be really low. So fire danger out there. And then we talk about severe concerns. So this is Friday. There's the dry line. It's out there. Not a ton of humidity ahead of it. We go into our Saturday. There's the dry line again. So by the afternoon, western Oklahoma, some storms might try to form. We go into Saturday and Sunday. The numbers go away, but the dry line's still the same. That's a lot of moisture right there all across the state. So that means severe chances will be higher. Last weekend, we had not a ton of dew point, not a ton of humidity, but high base storms that produced really, really big hail all throughout western Oklahoma. So I believe we have some images here of the hail. We had tennis ball sized hail to baseball sized hail. So that's about 2.5 to approaching 3 inches. This was in Elk City. We had large hail in Sayre. We had large hail in Cordell. You don't want to be in that. Hail that is that large, and even smaller hail, lots of golf ball sized hail. Let's go to the next picture. I think this one is storm reports. So what's interesting about this is you can just kind of follow it along. So starting in Wheeler, Texas, basically, storms went up about 4:30, and then there were several of them that would follow this same line. So to about I-40, to Elk City, to Cordell, and then notice how they turned. So they turned to the right. Those were hail producers toward Elgin and Lawton, but you also see the high winds near Clinton and Hinton. Those were heat bursts. So those were not necessarily the biggest storms, but they produce winds over 60 miles per hour. But the hail, the reason that the storms took a right-hand turn is because they were following a line of instability, a gradient of instability. So north of it, and north of I-40, it was more stable. South of it, it was more humid, it was hotter, there was more fuel for the storms. So they don't want to pull away from that. They want to ride that to stay alive. I think we have the next picture. This is called a Theta E map, Theta E. And what Theta E is it's basically a way for us to quickly look at, through the Mesonet, where our instability axis is. And that red line kind of follows the line of the storms. They followed that. Where it's more green, there's more energy. Where it's brown, that's where it's drier and there's not as much energy. So that was one way we kind of knew that, okay, the storms are going to try. They look like they're going right toward the metro. They look like they're going right, due east. They actually curved and went south. So you can find that Theta E map. There's a good explanation about it, too, on the Mesonet website, mesonet.org. So that really helped us out last Saturday with the severe thunderstorms. Before we head to break real quick, this is some drone video from Mark Dillard. We had Steve Johnson out there, too, on Saturday. Our many crews with our Foresight drones, and just spectacular views here of the storms. Again, they're pretty high base. The bottom of the cloud was pretty high. They did have wall clouds with them. And that's a lot of hail right there. That's all rain and hail. And look at that one. My goodness. I mean, just a beautiful, we call it an LP supercell, low precipitation. Obviously, there is hail and rain in there, but the base is high and you can see it really well. And on this one, you can actually see the rain kind of coming out. That's rain-cooled air coming out. So that's a downburst happening right there, kind of near the center part of your screen. That could be something that happens tomorrow and Friday. As we have the dry air, these supercells could go up. The air near the surface is dry, so rain comes down. It saturates the air, that gets heavy, and it just blasts into the ground. And you can get these downburst winds, and that's beautiful right there. Obviously not beautiful if you're under it, but an amazing view that we brought to our folks live on Saturday with our Foresight drone in western Oklahoma. I mean, look at the sunlight coming in behind it.
It's a beautiful shot. I know that I was at home on Friday, really anxious that hail was going to come into the metro, and loved when you guys shared that it was turning.
Yeah, and it did. Lots of folks did see some destructive hail out there, probably some windshields that have seen better days, unfortunately, but no tornadoes. And that's because we didn't have all that humidity. So that actually turned out pretty well. So coming up, we're going to go back several years to one of the biggest tornadoes that happened in Oklahoma weather history. And interestingly enough, it was a big tornado. It was devastating, but it's known as the Forgotten Tornado. Why was it forgotten, even though it was a really big deal? We'll talk about that coming up on What's Up With This Weather after this. And And welcome back to What's Up With This Weather, where we've talked about the large hail, very large hail for the weekend. You know, you don't want hail that is falling the size of sports that you play with either a tennis racket or a bat.
I don't want that. No, thank you.
And you certainly don't want some that are, foods that you eat either, like grapefruits and things of that nature.
Have you, with your eyes, seen the grapefruit or the DVD? Or have you even seen softball, baseball? That's still extremely impressive to me.
Yeah. The largest I've ever seen was baseball. And it was a situation where I think we were near Clinton, and we were south of I-40, and we kind of were aiming toward the storm with the windshield to show viewers the incoming storm. And the coloring changed really quickly to white. And I'm like, uh-oh, that's hail. So we turned around to go north up to the town. It was Hydro. It was near Hydro.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, there's a little hail falling. Fine. But then all of a sudden, you see these huge kaboom, kaboom in the field next to us. I'm like, whoa. So we were going as fast as we safely could. I heard one hit the roof. And then we got to this little, I think it was an abandoned gas station that had the canopy. And right as we got there, just tons of baseballs all over the place. So we saved the vehicle and the windshield. We hung out for about 5 or 10 minutes till it went by, and then we kept going. But that was a lucky day for us.
Yes.
Because that came up really quickly.
Probably not lucky for a lot of people in Hydro, though.
Yeah. And there were people out there trying to drive around and find shelter at the last minute too. I think a few of them pulled up to the gas station with us that already had some hail damage. Man. Not good stuff. Hey, real quick, don't park under underpasses. Don't do it.
And don't stop on the highway.
Don't.
Nowhere.
Think of the emergency vehicles that have to get through. Think of your own safety. You might be thinking you're saving your vehicle. When there's limited visibility and hail over the road, someone could plow into you very easily.
Yes. And that would be a fatality.
Yes. I just had to say that because we've had it. Gosh, we had it again over the weekend on Saturday.
It's really surprising because we keep preaching, please don't do this. Please don't do this. It's extremely dangerous. First responders are even asking, please listen to Aaron Brackett and the other meteorologists when they're telling you.
And you can get a ticket for it too.
Yes.
Imagine a police officer that comes up because he's trying to respond to a call. I don't think he'll be too nice.
No.
So
maximum fine.
Maximum fine. Don't do it. All right. So we're talking about the tornado that is called by some the Forgotten Tornado. Mm-hmm. So if you think about big tornadoes, okay, May 3rd, 1999, May 20th, 2013, more tornado. Then you think about May 31st, also 2013. These are, big tornado days in Oklahoma. The May 20th tornado, there were several that happened, 9 of them actually, the day before, May 19th, 2013. And one of those was an EF4. So it was a big deal. And we'll roll the footage here because this is meteorologist Emily Sutton who was tracking this in real time, May 19th, 2013, a day before the May 20th tornado.
Can we get in?
No, big ditch.
Can I just turn? Is there somewhere where I can even turn around?
Look for just a little any pulling and it's farmer's land.
There we go.
This is a huge tornado on the ground.
And Erin, if you could point out, when she was talking about finding a spot, there were tons of other chasers who were pulled over.
Like a figure skater.
I think they were parked on the side of the road, and there was, I'm just kind of guessing that there was a ditch and they couldn't get through because they were all kind of hanging out.
At least a 15-car line of trackers out looking at this.
Well, I'll tell you, that's tame compared to today. I mean, there's some roads that are just impassable, and that's really become one of the more dangerous aspects of chasing is the amount of people that will converge in a very rural area. Us meteorologists know how to, follow the tornado from a safe distance. It's still dangerous for sure, but the amount of traffic is becoming problematic. So anyway, this is May 19, 2013, and that was live coverage right there at the time. And that tornado ended up being an EF4, so started near the Norman area, kind of on the east side. We'll show you a tornado track here of where this went and ended up, and it didn't have EF4 damage the entire path length, but it was a pretty good stretch of solid EF3. So there it is. Denver is a community that's just off to the east of Norman. There's Highway 9 in the lower left-hand side of the image. It split the difference between the small communities of Stella and Pink.
Mhm.
It moved toward northern Bethel Acres, and this is really close to the one of the main radar sites, so they had a great image of it. So anything that you see in the yellow, that's going to be EF2 damage. There's little bits of orange there, south of Stella, and then north of Bethel Acres, that's EF3. And then north of Bethel Acres, it goes to red. That's EF4 damage that was discovered during this tornado before it dissipated on the north sides of Shawnee and kind of near the community of Dale, Oklahoma. So it moved through East Norman, like Thunderbird area, Bethel Acres, Shawnee. There were other tornadoes that came through too on that day, which I'll talk about in a second. But as part of our weather special this year, Emily went to the Bethel Acres area to talk with some folks that were impacted by this. And again, the reason it was called the forgotten tornado is not because it's forgotten by the people impacted, it changed their lives, which you're about to see. It's because the May 20th tornado that happened literally about 24 hours later impacted more people. It made the news more. It was a EF5. It was, more devastating. But I mean, this tornado as it stands by itself was horrible.
Yes.
So it was absolutely horrible. So we'll roll the weather package here and let you kind of see what happened to this particular family as they remember the state back in 2013.
May 19th, 2013. 2 supercells spawned 7 tornadoes in central Oklahoma. The largest, an EF4 tornado that started in the east side of Norman through Lake Thunderbird to Shawnee. One of the hardest hit areas right here in Bethel Acres. 13 years later, little evidence remains of this tornado, but it's a day that this community will never forget. Despite the Oklahoma reputation, your chance of being hit by a tornado is rare, less than 1%. But on May 19th, 2013, the Hoke family defied the odds.
The neighbor guy came over and he started, his eyes were huge. And he said, it's coming. He says, we need to get in there now.
They didn't even clean up the kitchen or anything. Just went down in the storm shelter, just grabbed the kids and went down there.
Their Bethel Acres home in the direct path of a violent multi-vortex tornado.
And I just remember looking at Michelle, and she was over the kids, and debris just started shooting down in those holes. And it was loud. And you felt your ears popping.
Emerging from their shelter, shock and confusion turned to fear.
And I didn't want to look toward the house, but I knew I had to see what was there. And of course, nothing's there. It was like a whole bomb kind of went off, it's just everything is everywhere. And then the first thought in my mind was my mom.
Michelle's parents, a few doors down, were severely injured while sheltering in their bathtub, but they survived. Despite the loss, volunteers recovered a few family treasures.
And they actually found this in the rubble. We actually had a picture from Sand Springs that got blown all the way to Sand Springs that made its way back to us of our daughter. And this is in terrible shape, but
wow, Sand Springs.
Yeah.
Advice from these storm survivors? Invest in a shelter and stay forewarned, because you never know when you'll be in the path of Oklahoma's extreme weather.
To me, I kind of feel like there's no excuse that you can't.
Incredible just how far some of those mementos went.
Mm-hmm. Sand Springs. And that they were able to recover them. I kind of asked about that. Mark Dillard was out there with Emily preparing that probably about a month ago or so for our special. And I guess people set up Facebook groups and stuff that found some of the stuff far away. And there were some school groups that kind of worked together and tried to get some of these things back. You know, the wedding dress and the
Yes.
photo, and you know they were able to post these things and say, hey, if you can claim this or you know somehow show that it's yours, we want to help get it to you, because these things went really far.
It's just remarkable because these families and individuals truly lose most everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love seeing the Oklahoma Standard,
Yeah.
people rising up to help each other when they've just been decimated.
And we've already seen a lot of that, well, unfortunately, this year with the Enid tornado. That was an EF4 too.
Wow.
And it was along almost its entire path length. We've seen people come. Well, I mean, that night there were, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, fire departments from Langston, Deer Creek, Edmond, basically the departments that had search and rescue gear, made their way up there that night. And then in the following days and even weeks, there's been lots of civilian volunteers that have gone up there too. The city,
over 800, I believe, were deployed last weekend or weekend before, and because the city just desperately needed them.
yeah, and I remember checking the sign up link for that, and I don't remember which day I looked. There were multiple days that you could sign up for, and one of them was full when I looked. I'm like, I was so happy to see that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's really, really good stuff, that the way people come together. And, you know, that story is just a reminder of how devastating these things can be. Even EF2s and EF3s can be very
And
tough.
I think the just profound part is that they're reoccurring stories. The stories will not go away. They will not stop. We continue having extreme weather events.
Yep. And that same day, too, I want to mention, you know, there was a Kearney tornado that was EF3. It was 20 miles long. So that was really big. Mark Dillard was telling me that he was on that one that day. Prague had an EF2. There were little tornadoes in Oklahoma and Lincoln counties, EF1. One in Arcadia, EF0. Creek County, Shamrock, Oklahoma, so that's northeastern Oklahoma, is EF0, and large hail over baseball size in many, many locations. So I wanted to mention those too, in addition to, again, what is sometimes referred to as the forgotten tornado. There were eight other ones in various areas, central and eastern Oklahoma, that day too.
But you can also see why it was forgotten, because the next day.
Yep, the next day it was just horrible. And then 11 days after that, the May 31st tornado, El Reno tornado. It's just a horrible, horrible year. My goodness.
And I remember I lived here at the time, or was here in the metro, and remember this stretch of days. The whole community was on edge.
Yeah.
Because we just didn't know what was going to happen. It's very stressful for people because you have to be weather aware all the time.
We cannot do that again for a very long time, and that would be great.
It would be fantastic.
Let's bring up Max 3 real quick, because earlier I was switching gears a little bit. I was talking about the fire danger that we have for tomorrow in western Oklahoma. So today we have a decent amount of moisture and dew point. That's why our fire danger isn't significant. But tomorrow, as you look at this, the bottom number is the wind gust and the top number is the humidity. Look at places like Woodward and Clinton and Altus tomorrow afternoon. 8% humidity, 7% humidity. That is incredibly low. And yes, we've had some green up here in central, even parts of western Oklahoma, but a lot of northwest Oklahoma is still in some very severe drought. So this is going to be a deal tomorrow. Some of these gusts might be a little north of 40 miles per hour even. And at the same time, there's a possibility. So I'm going to kind of switch graphics here, because these some of these same areas are also outlooked for a very small chance of severe weather. So remember, there's the fire danger right there on the map. And as this one comes up, look at that. So it's a 1 out of 5 risk of severe storms. But if a storm can push up in that really dry environment, it's going to be almost all exclusive a downbursting wind threat. Now, again, the threat is very, very low. I do want to show you the jet stream pattern, though, because severe weather is going to get more likely as we head to the weekend. So small risk tomorrow, the jet stream not totally over Oklahoma. Here's our Friday, still not totally over Oklahoma. Then we go towards Saturday. Here's Saturday afternoon, conditional risk, but look at Sunday. Look near Salt Lake City. The upper left-hand side of the graphic right there, that is going to be a big trough that digs in, and especially by Monday, all that energy gets thrown right into Oklahoma. So basically it's very low, like 10% chances at the most tomorrow, Friday, maybe about a 15 to 20% chance Saturday, and then it goes up big time on Sunday and Monday for the potential of more widespread severe weather. So, we'll be watching it here all through the rest of the week, certainly the weekend. We should have our plan in place, but kind of give your family a refresher before Sunday and before Monday, especially because those days do have kind of an increasing tornado risk that we're going to watch. So that's it for our What's Up with This Weather today. Of course, we'll be with you on air, online, right here on KFOR Plus with the latest information as we head right into the middle of May. Severe season returns after a couple days off. We'll see you next week on What's Up with This Weather. Have a good one.